Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and in this episode I'd like to deliver a little travel information about beautiful Portugal. I will share my travel EDC with you, and I want to deliver a little verdict about a watch, the Lorier Neptune, which I'm going to sell. Long vacation in Portugal, 3 entire weeks, and the question now is why? And the answer is very simple: because the country has it all. Great nature, great people, great food, great culture, very interesting history. And in this video I will go through all these 5 points, and I will deliver some observations, some speculations, some personal experiences, some anecdotes to illustrate these points. So let's start with the nature. It's just amazing. My favorite spots are along the coastline, which is I think roughly 800 kilometers long. You have a hinterland, but the main attractions are along this coastline. And especially for a guy living in a city, it's spectacular. The view is just spectacular, and it's very explorable. You can hike, in fact, along the entire coastline, or almost the entire coastline. There are little signs for little trails, and it's just amazing. Nice smell in the air, a bit like in the south of France, and again, amazing view. Very beautiful weather. In the summer you often have weeks with 24 degrees, sun, little wind, so that you are not sweating, you're not cold. It's just perfect. And between all these rocks and high cliffs you have a lot of beaches, very large beaches sometimes. Some are smaller, but there's a wide variety. And so often you find the city beach or a beach in front of a little town, a bit crowded, where the locals go at the beach. And between them you find wild beaches, and then you are basically alone without lifeguards, so be careful, but absolutely worth a visit. And again, very approachable, because often you have a parking lot above these beaches, and then you have to climb a little bit to reach it, and this is spectacular, absolutely spectacular. And so big recommendation: nature along the coastline. And when you have a rainy day, which is during the summer, not on a regular base, but then you can visit the hinterland. There you find nice palaces, we will come to that, nice gardens, and so wonderful sights, really very different. So the entire country is not very big, but it's very different. It offers it all, really, exception snow. Next point is the people. Very friendly, very relaxed, very polite, and I experienced this over the decades, again and again and again. So it's very easy to deal with Portuguese people if you have your own comportamento in place, of course. And I tested the national character because I was approached by the police and they questioned me because of a fire. Interesting anecdote. The story is very simple. We had an apartment, and one night it was a bit chilly, and I thought this is a great opportunity, or a great moment to check out the fireplace, because there was a nice fireplace in the living room. And then we bought a bit of wood, and the wood was slightly wet, but not a drama, and I made a little fire. That's it. That was the story. And at the beginning it was a bit smoky, not a drama. We opened some windows, and that was it basically. But then, sure enough, half an hour later it knocked at the door, and then there was a policeman in front of us, or in front of me. In fact, it was a GNR officer, so Guarda Nacional Republicana, I think. So the National Guard, it's part of the military. I thought, oh God, what did I do? And he told me that a neighbor has called the police because of a fire in the building. And I said, all right, that's my fire, I'm so sorry. And I explained fireplace, nothing dramatic, and he was very polite, and with my permission, if he could enter the apartment to have a look. And I said, sure, come in. And so he came in, went into the living room, saw the fire with 3 pieces of wood in the fireplace burning, so very small fire, and said, okay, that's it, all right, so now it's under control. And I said it was under control every second, basically. Just a little smoke at the beginning. And he said, all right, no problem. And I apologized, actually, for making such a fuss. And he said, no problem. It's a fireplace. It's supposed to house a fire. And my theory then is that a local or neighbor was a bit nervous, because fire in Portugal in summer you don't want to smell because of the large bushfires in other areas in the hinterland. And so somebody apparently thought better safe than sorry, called the police, and police showed up, and but was very polite and friendly. And so bottom line, relaxed people. This can lead to a slower service here and there than we're used to see in, let's say, Berlin. But in that case, you have to take it easy. When you're waiting some minutes longer for the bill, it's not a big deal. Take it easy. It's just the way of life there. And I looked it up and I found that Portugal has a very large or very high life expectancy, interestingly. Despite of economic challenges, and the life expectancy is above 82 years. This is more than Germany, more than United States, more than the UK. Russia don't want to be mentioned in this context, sadly, and so they are they get pretty old in this environment. I think because not so much stress, great food, we'll come to that, and I think a very positive climate. So the weather is very, very, very good for your health, but this is of course a speculation. But all right, let's go to the next point, which is food, and this is of course very interesting and very nice to see. First, seafood, always great because the country is basically in front of the Atlantic Ocean, right? And so you have a big supply of very affordable, high quality seafood and fish, and it's just great. Then you have very good supermarkets, thanks to the French, I think, because there are many French chains like Intermarché, where you have everything in high quality, and then you have a fresh fish department in a supermarket, which is unheard of in Germany, for example. And so even in a supermarket, I feel that the quality of many products are higher than in Germany, especially when it comes to vegetables and fruits, because in Germany everything looks perfect. The tomato is perfectly round, it's perfectly red, it's perfectly clean, and in Portugal it's often a bit egg-shaped and there is a bit dust on top, but the taste is amazing compared to the German product. And so this is a very nice aspect. Prices are pretty equal. You cannot make this super great bargain at a local supermarket in Portugal. It's pretty Western Europe standard, I would say. Another case are restaurants, and that's where the fun really starts, because they are on a very, very good level. Often they're pretty basic, or let's say down to earth. So you have a nice meal but served on a stainless steel tray, which reminds me of France, which I really enjoy, that you have an advanced meal there and then served just like that. And they are relatively cheap compared to German restaurants, but they're good. And I like to illustrate this with a lunch we had in Mafra. This is a little town, but with a huge palace. We will come to that palace. And the restaurant was not in the Chibi-Mergi area, it was in the vicinity of that palace. But it was visited 100% by locals. And so I thought, this is our restaurant. And then we went in and we had a fabulous lunch. Really, really good cooking. There you really could taste that there's an actual cook in the kitchen, which is not the rule in Germany anymore. And I had some olives and bread as a starter. You always get these olives and bread. You don't have to eat them, but I like them. Then I had a mixed salad. Then I had stuffed veal with homemade French fries and a bit of rice. Together with that veal, I had 2 glasses of wine, 1 glass of water. And after that main dish, I had an espresso. Together with the spirit, you could call it Schnaps. In Germany, we say Obstler, which is a Schnaps made of a fruit in that cognac type of glass, and the bill, or my part of the bill there, was 22 euros, believe it or not. Try this in Hamburg, Germany, with 22 euros, and then you get a salad and 1 glass of wine, and she will pour the wine like this. Not a drop too much, really, with that little mark, and it's just painful. And there, well-made lunch for 22 bucks. And example, wine. I asked for a glass of wine, and the waiter showed up with a bottle, showed me that wine. I knew that wine, and it was an okay middle-class wine you could pick up there in the supermarket for 5 to 6 bucks. And 1 glass in the restaurant was on the menu for 1.50, believe it or not, 1.50. The espresso, which was decent quality, 90 cents. The spirit with the coffee was 1 euro, believe it or not. I mean, these are prices just crazy, and everything really was well made. It was not that trash you find in tourist traps. And so for me personally, heaven. But of course, behind these prices are an, let's say, challenging economic situation, because a normal salary, monthly salary, or the average monthly salary, I looked it up, is 1,200 euros. And this is, I think, at the end in Western Europe. I think in Germany it's around 4,000 or over 4,000 euros now per month, before taxes, of course. And so a restaurant cannot charge big prices, but I also have the feeling that people wouldn't accept very high prices even if they could afford them. Because this is a bit speculation, but I have the feeling that Portuguese people, they visit restaurants more often, and I think they know a bit more about product quality and real value. And so even if a Portuguese could afford a very expensive bottle of wine, he or she would ask, wait a second, is it worth it or is it not worth it? Little anecdote from Hamburg, Germany that illustrates my point. My wife went out together with friends in a restaurant and they ordered a bottle of wine, and it was a Portuguese vinho verde. So a relatively light white wine. It was Muralhas de Monção, and it happens to be that I know this wine very well because you can find it at every corner in Portugal. And there in a supermarket it goes for €5.90 or €6.50, or sometimes you have an offer, then it's €4. So basic middle class stuff. It's great wine. Bottle looks a bit cheesy, but when you see it, you can drink it. It's great wine. And in a Portuguese restaurant, you find them often on the menu for, let's say, 10 or 15, because the owner of the restaurant doesn't pay that supermarket price. He or she pays, what is it, wholesale €4 for that bottle, and then they say, okay, plus 300% markup makes €12 for the menu. Okay, and here in Hamburg, the price on the menu for that stuff was €36. And you could argue, no, well, probably in Hamburg this stuff is very expensive. No, it's not. It's in the supermarket here as well for €6.90 or something like that. And for the owner of the restaurant, the price is perhaps €3.50 to €4. And so they added just 1,000% to the stuff, put it on the menu. And the crazy thing is that people here accept it. Even when they find out, then they say, yeah, okay, but I think the restaurant must live. But I wonder what kind of business model is this when you depend ripping off customers. It's very, very crazy. Okay, last story, tipping culture. Tipping culture in Portugal, always very interesting for tourists. Explanation is not so easy because it varies so much from region to region, from restaurant to restaurant. But it's a bit more complicated. In Germany, for example, you tip 10%. You have a bill of 45 euros, and then you give the waiter 50, and you say, keep the change, thank you very much, something like that. And he just keeps it, says thank you in the best case, and then this is your tipping culture. In Portugal, it's a bit different. When you have a bill of 45 euros in a restaurant, and you have a 50 euro banknote, and you give the 50 to the waiter, and you say, make it 50, then they will not hear that. He will come back with the exact change on a little tray. Exact change down to the last cent, and then it's expected that you tip then when the waiter is a bit in a distance, so that it's not that obvious. And I made the experience, dear Portuguese, correct me if I'm wrong, that 10% in Portugal is okay. It's a decent tip because when they see it, they say thank you very much, and so on. I think it's okay then. And when you have an exceptional service, then you can give a bit more, but I have the feeling that it's not expected. And when you pay with a card, then you can say make it 50, and then they will accept it just like that. Okay, culture, very, very rewarding, because there are so many great places to see. Portugal has a colonial history and a interesting history in total, in general, and so you can visit some palaces. There is the very famous palace of Sintra, which is totally overcrowded, and so my recommendation is, yeah, you can go there in the off season, but it can be challenging. But there are also other places, and so in this town called Mafra, where I had this fabulous lunch, there is the Palácio Nacional de Mafra, and this is a palace. The story is that they used 25% of all income from the Brazilian colonies, and the Brazilian colony was vast, and the palace in Mafra is also huge, 38,000 square meters with a large garden, and it's very accessible. You can visit the rooms of the royal families there, and so you can see the king's bed, you can see the king's bathroom, and so it illustrates this history in a very, very nice way. And the second palace is in Queluz, and this is a Rococo summer residence for a royal family. Lovely, just lovely. The entire thing is covered with fine art. There is a nice library. Also in Mafra is a huge library. And so these places are absolutely worth it, and it's not very expensive. I think in Mafra the entrance was $15 per person, and for families a 50% discount. And so this was very amazing to see. And I will not bother you with longer explanation, just see some images of it and you will get the feeling and you will get an idea what you can see there. Next point is the fascinating history of the country, and you can learn that history not by watching a YouTube video, you can learn it by visiting these palaces, because there's everything explained and nicely illustrated. Plus you find some good books, and I want to recommend this book titled The Portuguese, written by Barry Hatton, and it's about the history but also about the people in general. It's very amusing. It's very insightful, because Hatton is a Brit, but he lived decades in Lisbon as a journalist. And so it's from 2012. It's a bit older, but I think the main points are untouched or unaltered. This is an English copy. I can read Portuguese, but my English is much faster. So I read this, and it's a great read, very interesting, very insightful. So absolutely worth a recommendation. Okay, next point is the EDC. Let's start with the watches. I brought 3 watches to Portugal. The first one was my vintage Hamilton. This is a gift from a dear viewer and I enjoy it immensely. And of course the plan was to combine it with a white shirt and pretentious scarf, and so to wear it in the most pretentious way imaginable, and that's what I did. And somebody actually said, hey, nice watch, to me when I was sitting casually there. And so really nice piece, keeper. And the second one was for rough duty or for the beach, for hikes. And this was the Praesidus Rec-Spec, which I also enjoy because it's legible, it's robust, it's affordable. I think it goes for, what is it, under 200 euros. Hardlex crystal, 38 millimeters. The Hardlex crystal, of course, is the weak spot there. But this was just the watch to go for these purposes. And the third one was my Lorier Neptune. And now we'll come to the Lorier Neptune, which I'm going to sell because I don't like it anymore. Can you believe that? I was so happy with the watch over years, but then I think the Hamilton is to blame with the small size, because I put the Lorier on the wrist and I realized it's just too massive for my 17 centimeter wrist. I couldn't watch over this factor anymore, and I thought this is just too much watch. And I found the bracelet clumsy. I always found the bracelet clumsy. It was always the weak spot for me personally for this on this watch. And so yeah, the verdict is I'm going to sell this piece. I mean, it's a decent watch with a unique design, but for people with a larger wrist, and so I'm going to sell that. And to store these watches, I used my travel wallet case for 3 watches, which I produce here myself. Served me well again. And I brought the Caseback courier into that vacation. And the crazy story is with the courier that I was, when I produced the first 3 pieces, I suffered a bit of imposter syndrome, because I thought, Tim, you're a skilled maker for wallets, you're a skilled belt maker, you can do this, you can do that. But this project, this courier bag, is quite another thing. It's more complex, it's more complicated. And it's a bit of a responsibility to deliver in a decent, really decent quality. And so I stored away, believe it or not, the first 3 pieces of the courier bag for almost a year. I just wasn't in the mood. I just wasn't ready to sell them. And then I discovered that one of these bags had a scratch in the front. Such a scratch you will cause during the first day, but you cannot sell it as new anymore. And so I said, this is my personal courier from this series now. And I loved it from the first minute, because it just delivered what the promise was there. And since then I bring it to every occasion, at the beach, hiking and everything, and it looks better and better and better with that. And so this was a great experience. And the next product I brought was my Riviera belt, and this I produced without imposter syndrome, because I knew it was good, because it wasn't so complex and every technique there was proven, and I tested everything meticulously, how to wash the cotton, the amount of shrinking of the cotton. I tested every aspect really, and this, yeah, served me well, looks good, and so big recommendation. I know this is a bit of advertising, but it's honest advertising. I use these products every day basically, and so if you want to purchase them, if you want to check them out, then casebackwatches.com is your spot. Okay, and that's all for this episode. That's all about Portugal and my EDC, the watch. Let me know in the comments if you have further questions, or just make a comment. What do you think about this beautiful country? Okay, that's really all. Thank you very much for your attention, and until next time.